Hey everyone, this is 8's Crypto here. It's gonna be a fun day. We have an interview with HUD 8 CEO Asher. So before we get started on the interview, I'm just gonna run through the chart before Asher comes and joins us at 11 a.m. Eastern time. So let's get started. Awesome. So the chart for that I'm going to start with is more of a long-term outlook right now. I have the 2-month chart pulled up, a chart time frame really that I don't look at too much, but I do want to look at it for this segment just to give us an outlook on what's to come in 2025 and 2026, potentially leading up to it. The 2-month chart is a great indicator to set up very, very long-term targets. As you can see, this chart closes in January and it just started in November. So for this past since right here. So since March of 2024, you can see that we've been trading above this white trend, which is a bullish indicator, 10 EMA. That's the only EMA that I'll use on my charts because in all time frames, it's important for the candles to be trading above. So for the 2-month to be above it consistently kind of just solidifies that we're in the process of a parabolic move to the upside. So things are just getting started for the Bitcoin miners, and I think it's going to be an interesting next few months. It's going to be a fun few months that we have leading up to the peak bull run. So 2-month chart right now is head right in the middle of my river, and as you can see, the 2-month chart really just needs to close January above this, and then the fun really gets started. So that's all I really wanted to show on the 2-month chart, was how the candles were looking from a long-term perspective, and then my advanced RSI indicator. Now we'll dive into the 1-month. And this gives us a little bit of a cleaner look on what's happening. I like to use the 1-month frequently. The 1-month is part of my arsenal. I use the 1-month, the 1 week, the 1 day, and the 4-hour interchangeably all day, every day when I'm looking at charts, just so I can kind of put the bigger picture into my head. But 1 second, guys. Let me see if there's anything in the chat. Appreciate everyone on YouTube watching this, guys. Don't forget to drop a comment that you watched it on YouTube. You dropped a comment, and then I'll send you guys my indicators, the free versions. I appreciate everyone supporting me, just like I support my team. But the 1-month chart here, man, looks fantastic. The setup really couldn't be any cleaner for a 1-month perspective. You can see since 2020, you can see this thing really went parabolic from 182 to $65. Peaked at $84, came back down, created a higher low from a long-term perspective. Once we bounced off of here, it really never came back down to these price ranges ever again. So you can kind of, even in a bear market, and this is what people don't understand. A lot of these Bitcoins, they're volatile, but with HUD 8 now venturing into the HPC AI sector, I think that's going to really, really lower the volatility in the bear market. Essentially, the same way that Bitcoin's ETFs bring more stability to Bitcoin. I think the transition from strictly traditional play Bitcoin miner to HPC AI was the smartest move that HUD 8 could have done under the leadership of Asher. And I'm so excited to dive into the interview to talk about how he brought this company back from the dead, essentially. HUD 8 was never on my radar, and I've been building position as of last week to hold to see, added it to my hodl of minor swings. So I'm excited to see what he has in store for us today. And, the Anthony Pomp news is really what I want to dive into. So I have a few questions in that area. So I think that was a very, very boss move on his end. Monthly chart, though, let's get going. You can see that the ribbons here, guys, they're very tight. So they're on the verge of a parabolic move. I would say it's going to be this month that we're going to see a parabolic move easily right back to, this 22. The top of my bands is always the first target for me. And I'm anticipating, essentially, look at November, we had a 470 to $3 candle. This one was 5. This one was like a $11 candle. So if we can get the same type of candle that we essentially got at this period, let's see. This would be a very nice move for HUD 8. So if we line this up, and this is what November gives us, that's a huge, actually huge move. Yeah, like let's see if HUD 8 wants to give it to us. But I'm expecting some insane price targets for Q4 for a lot of these miners, and the price targets are going to be essentially easier for me to see once we start really running here. So I'm very excited to see what they produce this month so I can get better target ranges for October and November. And everyone, I'd appreciate you if you hit the retweet button on X as well. So that let a lot of people know that we're here, we're started, and getting the room packed before Asher comes here at like 11. So let's show Asher we're excited to be here. Let's support the community and show the world why the Bitcoin sector community is probably one of the going to be the largest, but the funnest community and most engaged on X. As you can see from a ribbon standpoint, I think we're in this phase right now, guys. You can see the girth on this river is small. You can see it was small here, and then it really started to expand in November when the price action got explosive. So you can see we got the buy signal. You can see when the buy signal came that it was not expanded. There was no girth to it. So anticipate essentially the same move is what I'm anticipating. So I do expect the girth for it to go like this. And for price action, November starts right here. So this is where October ended. This is where November is going, but it can since there's plenty of time in the month, this will turn back and essentially form the same monthly print that we see here in 2021. So 2021 lines up with 2024 in a sense that this is where the fun starts, guys. So the fun is just getting started. And if you hang tight, believe in the fundamentals of the company, you will be rewarded. So I'm excited to be able to share a lot of my technical sides with you guys. And, I'm not perfect, but no one is, but I have conviction, and long-term plays typically are always locked in for me due to higher time frames being easier to predict in a sense. I trade a lot in the 4 hours one day, but the real money comes from not trading in these monthly time frames. And everyone knows that I've been vocal about not trading right now my miner bags, and accumulating HUT was a boss move, I think, because of the return. So I'm excited, guys. This is going to be a lot of fun. Today is not about any other miner besides HUT 8, guys. So I will continue a stream later, and maybe I'll go through all the miners, but today let's focus on HUD 8. But on a weekly standpoint, whales are in town. I mean, this thing looks fantastic. MACD looks great. Monthly looks fantastic. And then from a weekly standpoint, you can see that the weekly looks even better. Not only, this is really, really what popped up this week. We had an increase in whales this week, 82%. So the fun really begins right here above 75. So HUD 8 is in the process right now of a parabolic move. And I'm excited to have joined the party, guys. I mean, this is going to be really fun to see it bust through here. We have almost a double top at 21, 22. So it should be really easy to essentially get past this resistance right here. We had previously at this point 22 with only 56% whales in here. This previous one, 93, and we just shied this sell zone, took it down. But sell zones are like resistance. The more you attack it, the easier it gets to blast through it. So once we blast through this, it should be pretty clear skies to $36. And that's a reasonable target for this, considering all the things that Asher has in store. I want to discuss his exahash goals. I want to discuss the fleet. I have a lot of things I want to discuss with him, and I'm excited. Let me message Asher here. Just messaged him. But yeah, guys, don't forget to hit the retweet button. Let's show Asher. Let's get this room packed for the boss man. He's taking time out of his day to drop the alpha. Let's get it. Weekly chart, though. Another thing that really speaks to me is the advanced RSI. This is my favorite indicator, and it just gave us the buy signal on the weekly. So last time we got a buy signal, we were bouncing off, breaking into the river. Same thing, we broke above again. So you can really expect some crazy price action when we get this. Let's see here. Where was it? So right here. Last time when it hit a nice run, so you can see on the weekly when we get these buy signals, it really is pretty accurate. And whether it barely runs, but even this one went from like a $5 run. Here we went $8 to $12 run. What do you think is going to happen when we get the buy signal right here? Pretty aggressive move is upon us, guys. So it'll be interesting to see how hard this next week or two goes, but I've been pretty vocal about the entire sector being ready. And, I just can't express enough that some of these charts just look insane. So this is a weekly view and it couldn't look any better. And the daily, when all hope was lost because everyone's screaming they're going down, I was cool, calm, and collective buying HUD 8 for around 15, 16 bucks. And I'm going to ride this guy out to see how far he wants to go in Q4. I think it's probably top three miners right now in the game, honestly. And I'm not just saying that because Asher's coming in. I'm saying that because the charts are telling me he's doing the work behind scenes. He's literally turned this company upside down. So it's hard to ignore that HUD 8 is coming for that top seat in Q4, Q1 2025. So it's going to be interesting to see how hard this runs in correlation to Bitcoin. But the boss says he's ready. Let's see. I'm going to tell him whenever, ready whenever. Yep. So he'll be in any minute. Everyone smash the retweet button on X and let's show him what a packed room looks like. One second. Awesome. But he's getting ready right now. Let's show the boss what's happening. But the daily printed, we're breaking through. So tomorrow is going to be a fun day for HUT. We're going to see essentially probably this whole week of good price action like this. I would say HUT's going to have potential to reclaim this right here, daily close and 20 bucks. So HUT by 20 bucks Friday, possible. Fighting though, you can see the dip. You can see that this is resistance here. The buy signal just disappeared. But that's going to be the daily close we need to see today, this 1660, for the buy signal to remain. I have faith. We have perfect, clean bounce off 10 EMA. Whales are still in town. This is a beautiful candle. As you can see, it gapped down, gapped up, and above 10 EMA and looking very strong. So really going to revisit this top of the bands here. Alrighty. Asher is in, so let me get off of the charts and we will go straight to just interviewing and questions. Stop sharing screen. Asher.
Give me one second. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Great to see you. Great to see everybody.
Great to see you, brother. I see you're in Miami. I didn't know that. We're down the block from each other.
Oh, I didn't realize that. All right, we'll do one of these in person one day.
Yeah, that'd be fun. How are you?
Doing well. Thanks for having me.
Awesome, man. I'm super excited to get this started with you. Let's see here. So we can just start off by just talking about your journey in becoming a boss CEO, bringing this company back from the dead in such little time. Because this is impressive, Asher. Talk to me about your journey into becoming the CEO.
So it was interesting, right? Because myself and our chief strategy officer, Maiko, we started a company called US Bitcoin Corp. And a lot of people didn't really hear about us because we were a private company. We didn't see any benefit to PR because I remember when I originally thought about PR and like, oh, we got to do PR when we launch a new site and so forth. And then we thought to ourselves, we're like, well, we're not public. So we don't really have public shareholders. We don't need to raise capital. So like aside from ego, like why do we need to do PR? And then we just like completely took the opposite approach, which is just like just be low key and just grow and be like a sleeping giant. And so we were private for some time, and then when we were looking, we like went through. So 2021, we started the company in 2020. 2021, bull markets, everything was great. We were building, raising capital, and so forth. And I think we've raised like a very small amount of capital compared to kind of the rest of the industry, and have built a pretty large business, in my opinion. But then 2022, the markets just like went to shit, right? Like power prices went exactly. Power prices went up, hash prices went down, Bitcoin prices went down, FTX blew up, Celsius blew up, BlockFi, and so forth. And we started basically accumulating a lot of assets. We had to restructure some of our debt. And through that process, I learned about like restructuring. I was like, okay, we can potentially buy a lot of really interesting assets in these bankruptcies. So we bought a bunch of assets in the Compute North bankruptcy. We were very involved in the Celsius bankruptcy. And then in 2023, our mindset was like the world and the economy, like probably like won't be getting better, which we were wrong. Obviously, the markets have done a lot better than we thought. But let's like really think about one, bolstering our balance sheet so we can continue to acquire assets and be an acquirer and not be acquired. And then number two, it was like, let's like figure out a way to get public so we have access to the capital markets and can really compete at scale. And Hut 8 at the time, they had raised money in 2021. They had issues with their operations that I think everyone knows about. And it was like a really good match because they had a balance sheet. They were trading around their Bitcoin stack. We had this like large operation. We're like, let's bring these two things together. We can bolster our balance sheet. We can have these operations. And then, so December, the merger closed. We had the short report came out, and then like market, like the stock was at like what hit I think 677 when I took over, and I think the whole market was like, oh, Hut can't operate, Hut can't do this, Hut can't do that, but everyone ignored the fact that like you basically merge with US Bitcoin, you have this massive operating team that no one has heard about before, and the board ultimately decided to make a change in leadership and made me the CEO. And I think from February till today, we've had like a fun ride. I think stock prices luckily done well, but more importantly, like these underlying foundations of the business we're super excited for. I think we're just at the start of showing everyone what we're capable of, both on like the power side, Bitcoin side, AI side. So we're super excited.
Yeah, and you really I know when you first became CEO, everyone was a little hesitant. And what really stood out to me about you is your package. We don't have to talk about that, but like you get paid per performance of your stock. And look at that, you're killing it, man. So you put your mind where your mouth is, and you're really taking this company to that next level.
You'll see more of that from us. Like, look, I think a big part of like how the world works is incentives, right? Back in 2021, when everyone was talking about, oh, Bitcoin miners, they're going to use clean power, et cetera. I was like, no, just focus on the incentives. Clean power is cheap power. Thus, that's why Bitcoin miners will use it, not because of ESG, et cetera. That's like a nice addition cherry on top, but it's most economical. And I think similarly to comp structure, I think like management teams, companies should be compensated on performance and how they execute. And like last year, when we put in our comp package, it was all based on let's take 100% performance stock instead of any time vested, and let's go like earn the money that we make. And we'll continue to do that. And we do that not just for myself and the leadership team that you guys see publicly, but internally across the whole organization as well.
Yeah, the jet's coming soon for you, brother. You earned it. So when you get that jet purchase, I'm going to be there supporting you.
I'm pretty frugal. If you talk to our team, when I came in, like the old Hut team, I mean, they were staying at like nice hotels and like flying first. And I came in with a policy, and I was like, any hotel is about $300 has to go to approval through like the whole company thing. Everyone flies economy and so forth. So I really like admire folks like Sim, Wilton, where like, I mean, if you look at the Walmart philosophy, just like really operating businesses really lean and thoughtfully and investing every dollar that like drives growth.
Nice. Yeah. It's nice to see you, compensating. You're doing the opposite of HUD or of Riot, which I appreciate, but you would deserve those compensation packages if you were taking them from the ground up. But what are some struggles you faced early on and how did you overcome them? You think
Early on in the hut journey.
Yeah, in the hut journey, because there were a few things, but I mean, you
Yeah.
really overcame a lot of the adversaries and that I saw, especially, I'm a very technical analysis guy. So the chart is one of the strongest. I'm not going to talk about the charts, but I'm saying the chart reflects the fundamentals. And right now, you're number two and out of all companies right now, and it just reflects on the fundamental side. So what would be, you would say, one of the hardest things you overcame?
I think conviction that we knew what we were doing and we had confidence in our growth and our roadmap. When I took over, one of the first things people wanted was us announcing a massive fleet refresh, right? And I think throughout this year, it's played out that a lot of new generation machines have come out. And if we had done that, we probably would have bought machines at the wrong time at the wrong price. And
Yes.
so it's conviction and understanding the business, conviction and continuing to operate with the long term vision in place that we think will generate outlasting shareholder value. And sometimes the market will agree and give us credit for it, and sometimes it won't. And it's having thick skin to be able to do so. I think another thing too is like, look, I'm a 29-year-old CEO of a public company, right? I have a lot to learn. I have a long tenure. I turn 30 tomorrow, and so
Great.
with like that in mind, like we're looking to build a business for a long period of time, and so we're also very sensitive in what we tell the market. Like we're doing a lot of really cool things, but like we don't need to tell the market until they become reality, right? Like whether it be new sites that we bring on that can be super interesting for different opportunities, like the Bitmain deal. I could have announced that when we were like early stages or when we talked through like an initial like kind of like intent on how we were going to do it, but I was like, no, once it's signed, it's definitive, then we'll share it, right? And so a lot of kind of what we're doing, we're trying to find that right balance on giving the market enough so they know we're up to a lot of stuff, but also not like giving them a bunch of marketing fluff and just telling them like, hey, this has been done, this has been done. And so continuing to build that confidence. And I think that's a balance, because you'll see kind of like, I think in the community of folks who are really following like our category of companies, like Hut still doesn't get mentioned as often as everyone else. And so I think it's just being really, really focused on like doing the right things for the business. And over time, I think people will notice and the stock will reflect accordingly.
Yeah, and I think that's a really smart thing to do because if you give them too much, then you see these massive sell-offs. And I think that's a great way to protect all the shareholders is not giving everyone all the information at once. And the way you handle everything reflects, like I said, from a technical standpoint. So I'm a big Hut shareholder now, my friend. So I'm excited
Appreciate
to
it.
see where
Appreciate
this
the
goes.
support.
Yeah,
Thank
absolutely.
you.
And the road to your PowerPoints that you released, your road to 20 exahash. I would love to hear you talk about that a bit to let the shareholders know, because that's no easy feat to do from where we started in 2024, Asher. And I believe in you. When you hear some of these Bitcoin mining companies and they give these crazy targets, and it's like, okay, and I feel like 20 is a modest. I feel like you're being modest.
Yeah. I so agreed on that. I think we can have a path past 20 as well, and we'll share more updates on that. Working on some fun stuff. But if you look at our fleet today, I mean, we're right around a bit of over 5 exahash, and the fleet efficiency is old, right? It's like 31 joules per terahash, and it's one of the oldest in the market. But our cost of mine of Bitcoin is still one of the most competitive. That's because we've done a good job managing our energy. We've done a good job operating, but improving those numbers is like relatively easy. Because if you look, I mean, we have almost 20 exahash under management today as a company, and we manage massive operations over 1.3 gigawatts of different infrastructure that we manage. And so for us, like to be competitive in this market, we were really looking at 40, 50 exahash. Like 20 is just to stay in the race, right? And so when we think about growth and opportunity, I've told people like we are continuing to focus on Bitcoin mining. It is a part of our core philosophy in terms of like driving the value of megawatts. Like we're not distracted on, okay, we're only going to do AI and now we don't care about mining. We think both of these businesses are important to the value of accretion for our company in the long term. And so, but I've also asked for like patience and making the right investment decisions at the right time, because if you invest at the wrong time, no matter how great of an investment it was, your payback is going to not be amazing, right? And you guys obviously all know this, like investing in stocks. And so when we invest in assets, we think about it in a similar way. And so we announced this Bitmain deal, 15 exahash, adding to what we have now. That takes us to 20. I've talked about a fleet upgrade in my last earnings, and I said you guys will hear more about that, and you'll hear more about that as I've promised and will deliver on shortly. And so 20 exahash, I think, like if you were to just do it the traditional way, if I locked in 15 exahash today for our Vegas site, what we would have to do is pay upfront today 50% upon signing, 50% before delivery, and that's like $300 million out the door just waiting for machines to show up.
Yeah.
Instead, we did the structure where like they sign a hosting agreement with us. We have an ability to buy these machines at a fixed price. And when the machines come in Q2 of next year, we haven't spent money on the 300 million. We put a 10% deposit, right? And then if hash prices rip, Bitcoin prices rip, we can buy the machines at a fixed price, and within a day we can turn them into hashing. And so there's not like a 6-month window we just have money out the door without returning. And if hash prices drop, we have a great hosting agreement. And so like Bitcoin goes up, we win. Bitcoin goes down, we win. And I think when spending these large dollars, being thoughtful in how we deploy them so we win in as many scenarios as we can model really is important. My biggest frustration with this industry and this business that I see myself like in a leading business that is in it is a lot of people can hide behind execution, because if Bitcoin or hash prices rip, everybody looks like a genius because everyone's doing well and profits are great. If
Mhm.
Bitcoin prices go down, everyone can just hide behind them not doing well because Bitcoin's down. And so, what really differentiates a great company, a great team in good times and bad times? And I'm excited because folks like yourself, other folks who are diving deeper, are getting a deeper understanding of how these companies operate, unit economics, the things that really move the needle. And I think that's where Hut will shine.
Nice. Yeah, I agree with you. And with hash rate being at all-time high, I feel like your opportunity is coming soon. You're smart with the way you're running everything and so analytical, but you have to be, and that's exactly why you're the CEO, right? Next question would be this Anthony Pomp. How did this happen? Talk to me about the journey to get Anthony Pomp in HUD 8. You basically just got Mike Alfred on steroids. You know that, right?
So small world. I actually met Pomp, I don't know, 1 or 2 years ago, and we actually subleased his office in Miami when he was moving back to New York. And so I got introduced to him. We were looking for office space in Miami, and they're like, "Hey, there's this guy who's subleasing. Would you like to chat with him?" I met him. He's kind of followed the story, followed the journey from us going from US Bitcoin to merging with Hut 8, then me taking over as CEO. And we were chatting recently, and he's like, Asher, you guys have so many interesting things going on at Hut, but so much of the market just doesn't realize it and doesn't understand it. He's like, I think one of your biggest weaknesses is like being able to tell your story and having the markets understand all of the amazing things that you're up to and how much depth there is in the story and how much diversity and opportunity there is. And so we are excited to have him on board and kind of sharing the stories and helping us think about, like we talked about this a little bit earlier, that right balance that between really telling the markets what we're up to, but also holding things close enough to the chest and only really sharing when we have great, big, exciting updates and announcements and so forth. And so we're finding that the right balance. We'll continue to find the right strike, but we're excited for Anthony to come on and share more about our story and about our vision and how we execute upon that within the months to come.
Nice. So, as an advisor, because what would be his like role, like to say for HUD, just out of curiosity?
I think a big part of it is like seeing what the market and what's happening in the market, and not just the kind of Bitcoin mining market, but the broader crypto financial market, giving us like insights and intel, right? Like we have platforms with the NASDAQ that we pay for that gives us insight on companies, how they're performing relative to us and so forth. And so like as you mentioned, we are a very analytically driven organization, and the more
Mhm.
data points that we have, quantitative and qualitative, the better we can make decisions. And so he's able to drive a perspective of data points for us as we make decisions. So that's kind of on the intake side. And on the extake, when we announce a deal, he can help kind of us
Mm,
explain better what does this mean, right? Because our deals are pretty complex. Like the
they
Bitmain deal we announced, I think like most people didn't understand. They're like, why didn't you just announce buying a machine? Like, why did you have to announce this whole complicated new machine format, new
it is.
structure? So that's what our hope is behind the role and what we are
Nice.
planning on executing on.
So essentially, he'll be able to break down what's happening in English for us. So we don't have to rely on Dr. Lewis and all these other people. We'll have a spokesman telling us word for word from the man himself. I like that. I think that's actually really smart. And a lot of the language in the Bitcoin mining world is very hard to break down. So I think this would bring a lot of transparency for the company, and not only the company, but probably for the whole sector. So,
And I
boss,
think his initial post I really like because he was able to
yes,
kind of
that
like
long one, that really.
yeah, he was able to share like what's been in my mind for this better part of the year. I was like, look, we're not a Bitcoin mining company. We're not an AI data center. We're a next generation power
Yeah.
infrastructure company. And like really our goal is to build energy infrastructure that connects at the intersection of power and next generation technologies. And he got that, right? Like when I started talking about in February, March, power, we're focusing on power, we're investing in power, people are like, shut up, buy Bitcoin miners. What are you talking about? And then in the recent months, everyone's like, "Oh, power is a huge thing. Everyone needs power. These data centers and so forth."
Energy.
Exactly. And so I think a lot of the times I'll share things, and then a couple months later, the markets will pick up, and everyone will be talking about it. And ideally, Anthony can help, like when we talk about these things, for people to realize, "Oh, Hut's been talking about these for
Yeah.
months now," and and we'll listen more to the kind of initial stories we tell, and then let the markets play out and see if we were right or wrong.
Yeah, he's like an energy dealer, and he's at the back of your hand. I like that. How is Hut 8 leveraging their SOC2 and their ICL certifications for their for your top for your tier 3 data centers and
So like you're saying the
competitive?
ISO certifications, like this the compliance and SOX compliance and so
Mhm.
forth. Um, yeah, this is interesting because I spoke to an investor the other day, and I was like, we have a 40 full-time staff that run our 5 traditional data centers in Canada. And he's like, you run traditional data centers? And I was like, yes. Where have you been? And he's like, I thought you just had a huge footprint of Bitcoin mining and power plants. I was like, no, we run like 5 traditional data centers in Canada. We have a full team that all they do and all they've ever done in their careers is run traditional data centers. We have everyone from the Canadian government to small kind of local businesses that run within those data centers, about 270 customers. And
Yeah.
so I think that will help us and it has helped us as we had these conversations with potential customers at scale, which is, look, we know power, we know how to build infrastructure, but we also understand data centers. And we have a big team of data center knowledge and expertise rather than we're going to try to figure it out. And so that's been helpful in the discussions and building credibility and having the confidence to execute.
Yeah, so this whole entire sector, the ones that haven't already pivoted, you guys are not only already past this point, but you have the advantage from already taking the initiative. And I think this is a boss move again. Overall, your whole model, you've transformed it. And was this vision like, did you come into this role and it's like, I'm gonna do this? Like, how did you do it so quickly? Is what I try to like comprehend. You did it so quickly, Asher. It hasn't even been a year since you've been CEO, and you you've gotten deals. Was this like you walked in the door, signed the paperwork? It's like, these are the deals I have been thinking about this. Like, how did you formulate all this so quickly?
So at when we were running US Bitcoin Corp, like we were doing deals all the time. We were structuring it. I mean, we had this kind of the AI H100s prepared like early last year and had to delay multiple
Mm,
times because the merger hadn't closed. We announced the merger in February of last year and it closed in
gotcha.
December. And so a lot of things like when some of our peers announced their first cluster, like we had that plan like months before and we just couldn't do it because the merger was going on and we couldn't deploy capital and like we had to kind of be in a little stalemate for I guess 10, 11 months. And so when we merged, I think a big part of like the change in leadership was December, January. Like we saw a big difference in how like the US Bitcoin folks and myself and my partner Mike like had thought about building and scaling versus like the existing Hut 8 management team. So like the old CEO, the chief legal officer, like they're not around anymore, and we made that change in February. And so it was less about like us coming in and just completely changing. It was more, we've been doing this
Yeah.
forever, just the world hasn't seen us do it. And we finally got the ability to execute starting in February, and we just hit the ground running and started doing a lot of deals.
Out with the old, in with the new. Innovation is, you're my age. I'm 29 as well, but I imagine, you're full of genius ideas as proven by locking in these monster deals already so early on. But
Look,
how,
I'm grateful because we have such an amazing board of directors, folks like Mayo Shattuck, who ran Constellation Energy for almost a decade, Stan O'Neill, who was CEO and chairman of Merrill Lynch, is on board of Clearway, a large energy company, Bill Tai, one of the early investors in Canva and Twitter, and like big, one of the first employees of TSMC, the semiconductor company. So we have like such great, Rick Rickerson, he's on the board of MicroStrategy. So we have such a great board of like knowledge that we truly have folks that like have been through this and can guide the business and can make sure that like we're making the right strategic decisions. So we have the pedigree, the knowledge, the background. I have a great executive team. Sean just joined us. He was a managing director at Citibank in power utilities and renewable. Victor, our chief legal officer, ran like a $600 million revenue top line data center business, Xterra. And then Greg joined us from Nextera after a decade. So like I'm extremely grateful and privileged because although like I'm earlier in my tenure in my career and have a lot of runway to build, I'm surrounded by so many great individual talents that together as a whole, I think make us pretty unstoppable.
yeah, the whole team is a unit, essentially, is what you're telling me. Yeah, I love it. How about curious on your megawatt build out funded deal? Is there anything you
Yeah.
can talk about with that, or not too much? Because I know that's probably more low key, but share what you want. But I know people are curious on that.
Sure. So today we have 1.3 gigawatts. The way that I would break that out is 300 megawatts we manage for a partner, Ionic Digital, which I think you know, and a lot of people know about. Out of the remaining gigawatt, we have about 300 megawatts in power generation assets. We own 4 power plants in Canada and Ontario, and then about 700 megawatts of different Bitcoin mining facilities. One of those is a 280 megawatt JV with Nextera, 50-50, and the rest we own. We're building a 205 megawatt site now, which is what we call Vega. And that's the site we're doing the Bitmain partnership with. And then we have over a gigawatt in our pipeline under exclusivity and in our development pipeline. And we're super excited by that. We're having a lot of conversations, both on scale on the Bitcoin side, but also on the AI side with customers. And there's some of these sites that are like perfect for AI data centers. They're not perfect for Bitcoin mining. So it's great. So we're excited by our existing footprint. The Vegas site will have online in Q2. So building online for very fast speed. We've told the market we're going to build a liquid cooled data center at 200 kilowatts per rack. I mean, what? It's going to be like 6 months if we think about Q2, and less than 6 months and under $400,000 a megawatt. I mean, most people can't even build air
Yeah.
Bitcoin mining facilities for a 400,000 megawatt. So we're excited, and we'll continue to show this stuff to the market, and we'll continue to execute until people pay attention.
Nice. Yeah. On the questions of that, what is the demand from hyperscalers for like that energy pipeline, you think?
Energy, people need energy. I mean,
Yeah,
we
makes
are
sense.
very lucky and fortunate, especially with the Co2 investment, like to be in all the right rooms, have all the right conversations. And so we're pretty active in dialogues and pretty deep stage in some of the relations and conversations. And so big focus of ours is the data center and the AI opportunity and the demand profile that exists there.
Nice. Yeah, I love that answer. Thank you. And then what is let's see, like your pivot to HPC AI versus traditional Bitcoin miners? I know you mentioned that you want to still be a Bitcoin miner focused company, but as you dive more into this HPC world, do you see the pivot going more towards one side, towards the other side, or do you feel like this company's will stand true and just stick to the Bitcoin mining and then just have the HPC AI play as like a secure? I would say it's a little more secure, less volatile, right?
Sure. So it's interesting because a lot of people think about these as two different businesses,
Mhm.
and I segment them so differently in my brain. The way I think about it is this. Okay, we find a site, we have access to power, right? We own the land, substation exists, or we're building a substation and connection to the grid, whether it be front of the meter, behind the meter. So you have the power infrastructure. So that's layer one. Um, like that cost of capital is relatively cheap because you're financing land, like long lead time electrical equipment and so forth. Then the question is, what do you build at that data center? Do you build a AI data center that's plus or minus $10 million a megawatt, or do you build a Bitcoin mining data center that's call it $300,000 to $400,000 a megawatt, depending on kind of force share or liquid to chip?
Yeah,
Then the next question is, do you host machines that customers put in your data center, or do you buy your own compute? And so if you buy your own compute, you're either putting in GPUs for the AI side, or you're putting in ASICs on the Bitcoin side. And then you're taking exposure to that compute exposure. So three layers: power,
I like that.
infrastructure, and compute. And let me kind of walk through each. So power, whatever you're consuming in terms of like your consumption on that power, like that's fine. Power can fuel everything. Then the question is data centers. And the way I think about it is not Bitcoin mining data centers and AI data centers. I think about it from like tier one, tier two, tier three, like redundancy. Is this data center a 2n n plus one redundancy? Because redundancy is what causes the cost of megawatt to increase. And so it doesn't make sense for you to put ASICs in a AI $10 million megawatt data center, because if you build a liquid cooled AI data center, you could put your ASICs liquid cooled in there. But does it really make sense to be spending that much money on like data centers when your chips don't cost that much, right? You're spending $1 million a megawatt for new generation chips versus $30 to $40 million a megawatt for GPUs. Like you're spending way less on the ASIC, so you don't want your infrastructure to cost as much. So that's why you're building cheaper infrastructure. But at the end of the day, if you're not owning the compute, and I bring in a hyperscaler customer on the AI side, great, super credit worthy. I can finance against that. Alternatively, if I bring in like a startup AI company, the credit worthiness is not as good as a Microsoft. But on the Bitcoin side, if I bring in Bitmain, they probably do billions of dollars of free cash flow every year. They're probably better credit worthiness than startup AI companies, right? And so when I think about the data center side, it's a co-location business. We're thinking about it on what is the cost of initial capex and what is the return profile on that deal, and then what is the credit worthiness of that customer. It doesn't matter if it's Bitcoin or AI; it's about the credit worthiness of the customer. And yes, usually on the Bitcoin side, your credit worthiness, you have to think about the volatility of their revenues, and that's what drives that. But a
Mhm.
startup AI company that doesn't have product market fit, face similar credit concerns. And so then you go to the next layer, which is, all right, let's just say I don't bring a customer and I buy my own chips. I buy GPUs from NVIDIA, or I buy ASICs from Bitmain or whichever other manufacturer. Okay, if I buy GPUs from NVIDIA, right now everyone's talking about like GPU cost per hour coming down. So you're still taking market risk if you don't have a signed fixed offtake agreement, and you're taking like on-demand market risk of what supply and demand curves are happening. If you're buying ASICs, you're taking market risk on hash price and supply and demand curves on hash price. And so the businesses are actually a lot more similar than people give them credit for. And like a big part of what we're focusing on, we'll share more about how we think about the world, the economics on these different verticals, credit worthiness. But like as we build this liquid cooled data centers, I believe the cost per megawatt on traditional data centers for GPUs will come down as need for redundancy decreases, either for older generation chips that people don't want to spend as much on infrastructure, or they realize they don't need 5 9 redundancy uptimes, and they don't even need N+1 on the full kind of supply chain, the full infrastructure stack. And so, like, I don't believe it's two different businesses on Bitcoin versus AI. I think it's different risk profiles along the value chain of power, infrastructure, and compute.
Yeah, I love that explanation because it broke it down perfectly for me. My entire thought process was two different central sectors in the market, and you just combined it. And I see what you're saying. Perfect explanation. What is the end game for the HODL, man? Talk to me. I know that everyone gets obsessed with the HODL, and you have your companies that sell the HODL completely, don't HODL. You had companies that sold it like Clean Spark Peak, and just curious on what your thoughts are for the fat HODL that HUD 8 has.
I think we found a nice balance. Ultimately, our main job is to drive value for shareholders and increase like our return on shareholder price and shareholder value, right? And so as a result, like I think currently since after the merger, we found a nice balance, which is okay. We have like 9,100 Bitcoin. Let's maintain that balance, and the new Bitcoin we're mining, let's fund operating costs and fund new capex deployments. And we've shared with the market, like, look, if there's an amazing investment opportunity and our stock price isn't great because we're not getting recognition for the work that we're doing, like, will we use the HODL to fund growth? Like, if we believe that those growth opportunities will outpace the growth of Bitcoin, then yeah, right. And if we think there's an opportunity to raise capital in the capital markets to fund those growth, we'll do that as well. And so I think it's not a religious view, but a view based on the dynamics of the opportunities and being able to make the right decision for our shareholders to fuel growth. And so I think that is kind of how we've thought about it. Look, we sold like covered calls earlier this year. We made over $20 million selling covered calls on the Bitcoin stack. Those some of those have already expired, those call options. The other ones are expiring next year. So like we're excited. Like our job is to make money. Our job is to make returns for shareholders. And we're big believers in Bitcoin, obviously. Otherwise, we wouldn't have this much exposure to ASICs and Bitcoin and so forth. But like our job is not to take bets on investors and investor and shareholder capital. Our job is to make the right investment decisions.
Awesome. Yeah, beautiful explanation. And I think, the way you're facilitating your entire company, I mean, what more does this company ask from such a leader? If everyone had your business model, I'm sure the rest of the sector would be doing a lot better. If you can bring a company from nothing and from scary to where you're at now, I think that speaks volume on your leadership. I'm excited to see where you take this company, Asher. And
we're just starting. We got a long road ahead. We're just starting.
I just entered a huge position last week, and I'm not trading any of my miners right now. Some will get traded, but I think Hut is a leading miner in this company and top 3 as of right now. So from number 12 in the beginning of the year, because I had them written down to top 3 is no easy feat, Asher. So you deserve
very much.
a lot of cred, my friend. So looks like everyone, thanks guys for all the comments. I'm not sure if Asher could see them, but it looks like everyone was loving your explanation of the bringing the two worlds together, the explanation on the power of the chips. You have a lot of comments. I don't know. Can you see the comments, Asher?
I can't. I don't think so.
I'll share them with you, but
okay.
That was an awesome interview. Do you have any last things you want to say?
I think stay tuned to our journey. When we share announcements, try to dig one level deeper, because a lot of ours come with nuances of how we structure them. Like we pride ourselves in how do we structure to protect against downside and maximize upside. So the next couple of months will be exciting, and the next couple of years will be even more exciting. So appreciate everyone, and thank you for following our journey.
Yeah, thank you, Asher, for this interview. It was awesome. A lot of questions answered, and I'll be following your journey on the charts on X. So if you ever curious on what your stock looks like, I'm your guy, brother. Okay.
Thanks, man. Keep it up, man.
Have a great day.